Apparently, so the new news on the pipeline, the rumor, so on and so forth. I've heard this for a while from the very pro NVIDIA graphics card people saying that the Vega would have crazy power consumption. And it turns out there's some sort of truth to it. Whereas the Radeon RX Vega allegedly is very power hungry according to MSI reps. AMD may not be revealing details on their gaming-focused Radeon RX Vega graphics card, but the manufacturers have revealed some interesting tidbits about the upcoming card. The Radeon RX Vega is known to feature the Vega 10 GPU and the HBM2 memory, but it looks like it's going to feature a very high power consumption. Right now the rumors is going to be around 300 watts or something, but when you look at aftermarket graphics cards for NVIDIA, like they pass 300. If you go to AnandTech, it shows the power load consumption for Crysis 3 on a Founders Edition 1080 is past 300, it's 335. Here is another quote from Tweaktown. I've seen the specs of RX Vega, it needs a damn lot of power. We're working on it, which is a start, so launching is coming closer. After a bit more digging, it seems that WCCF Tech was slightly off, so was Tweaktown. Apparently, the phrase was, damn, RX Vega needs a lot of power. I have a screenshot from Reddit that misses follow-up posts, but there is stuff here in this one post that the major sites kind of skipped over. And that is, someone replied to him, that isn't a positive sign, to which the MSI rep wrote, well, that depends on the level of performance, with a smiley face, meaning that there could be something positive about this. The source indeed works for MSI and has been sharing little bits of rumors on tweakers for a long time now, and his statements have always proven to be, on multiple occasions, accurate. These statements range from technical to launch to availability details. He's also been through the NDA issues in the past, including Vega and AMD, this very year. So I'm going to assume that he is fairly sure that he wasn't breaking any NDAs with this leak. Don't forget that the GTX 1080 aftermarket cards range from 265 watts to 365 watts during peak load performance. So depending on the voltage, clocks, etc., if Vega is in any way similar to Polaris, then people can also underclock to reduce the wattage and heat accordingly. He's mentioned that it will most likely be 350 watts at 1600 megahertz for Vega. First of all, this information coming from an onboard partner confirms that AMD has started seeding samples to custom board makers. AMD will be offering a wave of reference-based RX Vega cards at launch, but hopes to introduce custom cards after a while through their onboard partners. In terms of the power consumption, we cannot say much about it until we have more details. At the moment, AMD is detailing their 3 Vega cards, each with at least a 300 watt TDP figures. And I know it needs to maintain that 1600 megahertz clock speed, because if it dips below it, from what I understand, it isn't going to be trading blows of a 1080 Ti, that's for sure. You know, but don't shoot the fucking messenger. The AMD Radeon Instinct MI25, which launched yesterday, had a TDP of 300 watts. The Radeon Vega Frontier Edition will launch later this month in 2 flavors. The air-cooled variant, which we already know is $1,200, that has a 300 watt TDP, and the liquid-cooled version, which is $1,800, is 370 watts, 375 watt TDP. Now, supposedly, the reason for the water-cooled version featuring the higher power draw is because it will be maintaining a higher clock rate for a longer period of time versus the air-cooled model. Hence, the board will require extra wattage to be pumped to the card for longer durations compared to the air-cooled model. The air-cooled one is also clocked at 1600 megahertz, like the liquid-cooled variant, but will feature optimized clock operations, meaning that motherfucker will thermal throttle like a bitch. The all-in-one liquid-cooled solution for the Radeon Frontier Edition is said to be faster than its air-cooled counterpart. So if the Founders, well fuck, I hate that it's called FE, because I see FE, I think Founders Edition. So the Frontier Edition of Vega, the liquid-cooled version, can feature a 375 watt power draw. Since it needs the extra power to maintain higher clock speeds, why would this not translate over into Vega, is the question that the article then asks. but they also say to keep in mind that the 1080 Ti features a 250 watt power draw and boosts way beyond its rated clock speed. On the stock Founders Edition heatsink, which is an 8-pin plus a 6-pin power connector configuration. The Radeon RX Vega will require dual 8-pin connectors. Basically what the article later on implies is that the 1080 Ti works at a 250 watt power draw and boosts beyond its rated clock speed with an 8 and a 6-pin power connector on the Founders Edition. And the Radeon Vega Founders Edition works on a dual 8-pin. They surmise that there is a possibility that there could be variants with an 8-pin and a 6-pin, but in that theory, if they were to do something like that, quotation marks, there's a possibility you would get diminishing returns for this card, for the lower power draw. But once again, that's speculation. Would AMD do this? I don't think so. I mean, really, let's face it, onboard partners take these cards and then push them to the fucking max. I wouldn't be surprised if the Zotac Extreme broke out 3 like power connectors, you know, an 8-pin, an 8-pin, and a fucking 6-pin or some crazy shit with a 500 watt power draw maxed out. I mean, for real. For me, I don't necessarily care. I could see this being something that people would celebrate as to throw in AMD's face, but once again, I mean, all these cards do draw more than we perceive they do. Well, any way you look at it, if you've got a 500 watt power supply, this is probably not the card to grab. Or you're going to have to upgrade your power supply, definitely, if you get the Vega cards, especially the water-cooled one. If you're grabbing a Vega card, you probably weren't using a 500 watt power supply anyway, come to think of it. This is enthusiast grade shit, so really, the wattage doesn't matter. Oh well, guess I'll sit and wait and see mode, but frankly, with the way graphics cards are under load, they use well over 300 watts, so I'm not surprised. Oh, I can't actually give more of a shit than me. Rate, comment, subscribe if you so choose to. If not, to hell with it. You know? Get on with your life. Go outside, eat a hot dog or something. Meet some chicks, do some ecstasy. Oh wait, ecstasy is old. Do some Molly, kids. Mocaine. Then drive your car out in the desert and crash. Have a spiritual guide tell you what you're doing wrong with your life and then change everything about yourself. Or don't. Sit on the computer and fuck around all day. It doesn't matter to me.